what's going on, cash flow hackers? It's Chris with Life 180, and I got my buddy Mike Wolf here from Mike Wolf Mastery. If you've been watching the channel for a long time, you probably recognize Mike. We've done a lot of content over the years together. I started working with Mike, man, back in 2014, back when he was doing properties in Atlanta more than anything else, and that's where Hannah and I first started working with him. He started mentoring me in the real estate game, and he's been my real estate mentor now for, I can't believe it's been over a decade now. Holy crap, bro.
Crazy.
I was just going through like our videos of and seeing some of the clips of the old videos that we did back in like 2015. It was pretty crazy.
We were still in diapers back then too.
I know, dude. I had like dark hair. It was nuts. I've gone gray. Yeah, exactly. So back when we first met, Atlanta was all the rage. Since then, everybody's made out really well in Atlanta. Everybody's kind of killed it. The property values went up, rental rates went up, the system worked to a T, right? Everybody was good to go. Since COVID happened, I remember when we were trying to share this with everybody because it was working so well. COVID happened and inventory dried up, and that wasn't just you, that was just the industry in general, and it made it really, really challenging for people that wanted to invest in real estate without being a landlord, right? And so now there's some new opportunities, and I wanted to bring you on and kind of share this with everybody because I think it's really important for people to know that there are now opportunities for this turnkey real estate strategy that we talk about when we talk about cash flow hacking. In the first book that I wrote on this is put money in a whole life policy, leverage that policy, use it for a down payment on a property. You could finance the property for the rest of it. But the idea is you got enough cash flow coming from the properties to be able to manage both the debt lines. And as you pay down the policy loan, it recapitalizes the policy. When you get enough, repeat the process, buy another property, compound the cash flow, and kind of go from there. And love to have you dive in and talk about what's going on in the world right now. Like what happened with this whole COVID craze, like for 90 seconds maybe, and then talk about like what has had you move your focus from Atlanta to where you are now, and why is that important? Why do you think the opportunity is what it is at this point in time? And then we'll go from there.
That sounds great. So let's backtrack. Remember those days of COVID? Man, it feels like a long time ago now. But during that time, of course, they had a moratorium, and the government basically said to the banks, you cannot foreclose on people, which is a good thing in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
I don't think we want a whole bunch of homeless people wandering the streets. And so that obviously created, well, number one, it created no foreclosures, which is how we typically buy our properties. We normally buy distressed properties from the bank in bulk. So we'll buy 10, 20, 30, 48 homes at a time from the banks. And that's how we got our inventory. And so, Of course, that stopped. Of course, COVID has come and gone, but Atlanta has taken off. The prices went crazy, which is really good for the people who bought there. And matter of fact, it's kind of funny because I had a call the other day from one of my clients. She's going, my insurance is like doubled. What am I going to do? It's like, well, your insurance is doubled because your property's quadrupled and your rent
exactly.
That's a good thing. If your insurance is going up, that means your property's worth a lot more money. But
it's kind of somebody being like, I made $1 million last year. Why do I have to pay more taxes?
Well, exactly. So the property taxes did go up. The insurance did go up. And so the people who were invested did extremely well. But after COVID ended, because the prices went up and everybody has equity there, we haven't seen a lot of foreclosures since. So I don't have the ability to buy anything from the banks. And so it's kind of been bittersweet because I love that Atlanta market. I still love the Atlanta market. And I worked there for so long. And I absolutely loved working there. But unfortunately, there's no opportunity. And even if we could find properties, because the prices went up so much, the barrier to entry is a lot higher now. You need a lot more down payment. You need a lot to qualify for more mortgage. I remember when I first started there, you could buy a beautiful single family home for like 70 and 80,000.
I
And I
remember
wish I
that.
hadn't sold those all to other people. But in any case, so with Kansas City, I feel like a kid in a candy store. I feel like I've gone back in time, back to the days when I first started to get into Atlanta and properties were cheap and the numbers made so much sense. And I felt like I was the only person who realized that there's this opportunity here. It's like, it was not very competitive, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
So Kansas City, if you were to take a map of the U.S. and throw a dart and hit the bullseye, you would hit Kansas City. And why this is important is if you own Walmart or Costco or anywhere, any business where you're shipping products all across the country, you want to be pretty much in the middle. So it's a great place in terms of job creation.
It's like a hub.
It is a hub, exactly. And so we have different types of markets. So number one, you have the trophy markets. Those are places like Vegas and Phoenix and Florida. And that's where people who don't know anything about investing want to invest because it's like, it's kind of, hey, I like to vacation there. And those markets, they go up and down, and they're very influenced by what's going on in the world. People, when the economy is good, can't wait to buy there. And as soon as the economy goes bad, they sell their home to get some capital back in their bank account. And so those markets are really good if you're into timing things. And if this is what you do full time, you can actually do okay there. If you're somebody who's dabbling in real estate, or this is not your main gig, it's very dangerous, because if your timing's off, you'll get very messed up. So then you have the second markets, which are markets that actually make a lot of sense from a business perspective. It's places where there's job creation and growth. Atlanta is a perfect example of that. And I love those markets because they're slow and steady. You don't have the big roller coaster ride. They're usually slow and steady, unless you get a pandemic that changes things a little bit. But under normal circumstances, they just go up slow and steady. But then you have these markets that I call sleeper markets. And what a sleeper market is, it's a market that it's just really, it's very stable. It doesn't really go up very much. It stays kind of the same until everything gets expensive around it. Then all of a sudden, everybody is saying, hey, why didn't we invest in Kansas City? Because it's so affordable. And so we have these markets that people, it's not they don't pay attention to. There is population growth there, by the way. And that's something I always look for when I pick a market. But it is underpriced for how many jobs are there. It's underpriced for how much rent is compared to the amount you need to purchase a property. And so it's just a really great market. The one thing I love about it, because a lot of the people who come to me, they're just getting in the investing game. They may not have a ton of capital. The homes are relatively cheap there, like 150,000, 200,000 gets you a really nice place these days. We can get stuff for even cheaper than that sometimes. So
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and so obviously with a down payment, if you only need $40,000, that's a lot easier than trying to come up with 50, 75, 100,000. And so, but the numbers make a lot of sense because, like I said, the rent is high. And so if you were to use your life insurance policy and take some of the money out of there and then add a mortgage to it, it would still cash flow even after taxes and insurance and all that stuff. So these are some of the things that we like to look at when we're picking a market. Affordability, because it's so affordable. Like I said, people live in other places where they're starting to feel the pinch of the inflation, and they're finding they can't get ahead where they live. They tend to go to that type of market, and all of a sudden that market isn't that affordable anymore. Kind of like what Atlanta did, from the time that I got into the time that COVID did its thing on the market. So, but it has a really good rental market. A lot of people moving there. The economics are really good. They've just invested $6 billion in improvements. I'm not sure if you've ever been there, but in the downtown area and the
I've driven through.
Pardon me?
I've driven through, like where the Chiefs play and stuff. Yeah, I've driven through, on the highway going from Arizona to Vermont.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, and by the way, when I'm talking about Kansas City is divided in half. One side's on the Missouri side, one side is on the Kansas State side. And Missouri is much more landlord friendly. So that's where we're doing all our investing. And the state of Missouri has been talking about becoming the first U.S. state to eliminate capital gains tax on individual income,
Oh, that'd be nice.
including profits from real estate. So that obviously, if you can keep the money that more of the money that you make, that's never a bad thing. So there's a lot of great things going on in that market. And so I'm super excited to be there. And like I said,
That's
I feel like
amazing.
I've gone back in time now. I feel like back in the olden days of Atlanta when I could see
Nice.
the opportunity and we didn't have that much competition yet. So, but anyway, it's a great market and great place to get started if you haven't invested yet and you want to get in the market. You need something that's not ridiculously expensive, but that's also landlord friendly. So you're not going to get, places like California and New York. It's a horrible place to be a landlord. There's like rent controls, and it's very hard to evict tenants if they're not paying you. Anyway, I could go on and on and on, but I won't.
Yeah, no, man, that's amazing. So I remember when Hannah and I were first looking at Atlanta with you, and a big part of it was we didn't want to be landlords, right? So we're looking, the whole idea of turnkey is to not have to be a landlord and not have to worry about the properties. And so I think that's a big part of it. And one of the big selling points for you at that point in time, and this is when we first met you, and I know it played out that way, is that you had this amazing property management team on the ground that you had a relationship with. So everybody that bought properties from you got access to this property management team. And that's one of the things that you know how to do really, really well, that makes the barrier to entry really challenging for somebody from California, from New York, who, like buying a rental property, they avoided real estate because they don't want to be a landlord, because they think of things in terms of their backyard. They think of it in terms of the regulation in their backyard. They think of it in terms of having to, be the person that's fixing the toilet and dealing with the plumbers and dealing with, all the things and fixing the properties up when people, move in and out and all these things. You were doing 3-year lease options at the time. If I recall, yeah, that's pretty much how you were doing all of them, right? And you were building certain things into the program to kind of protect the landlord, the owner. And so how have you have it right now? Like, all the rules are the same, the landlord protections are the same. You got a great property management team on the ground. Like, all this, like, walk me through, like, just in a little more detail for everybody to understand, like, if you are in California, you are in New York, maybe Connecticut, or all these other places that it kind of sucks to be a landlord, why this could be an actual passive source of income.
Absolutely. So yes, if you live in a place like California and New York, one of the biggest myths, and this is something that when I first started in real estate, everybody said you should invest close to home. You should invest close to home. And nothing can be further than the truth, unless your home happens to be in a very strategically located place. So, I like to use the example. Imagine that you lived in Antarctica, and somebody came to you and said, hey, we can either sell you a McDonald's franchise next door to where you live. Wouldn't that be convenient? Or you could have one in Times Square and they're the exact same price. Well, yeah, it's a lot more convenient to buy the one in Antarctica, but I don't know if penguins are vegetarian or not. But in any case, I don't think you would do very well financially. And that's the same thing in real estate. You need to invest where it's strategic, where your money is working as hard as possible for you. If you own a property in a place where you can't get rid of a bad tenant, I can tell you that I've never once, and I've been doing real estate for 36 years, not once has a mortgage company ever called me up and said, hey, Mike, I hear you're having trouble with your tenant. You don't need to pay us until that tenant pays. That's never going to happen. And since that's never going to happen, you're on the hook for mortgage payments. You're on the hook for property management. Well, property management only if you're getting rent, which in this case you wouldn't be. You're on the hook for insurance. You're on the hook for property taxes. And that's coming out of your bank account, whether you've got income or not. So if you're setting yourself up in the wrong place, that could be the end of your real estate career and possibly put you into bankruptcy pretty quick. So you need to invest where your money's going to be working as hard as possible. So anyway, turnkey properties is a great solution for that, because if you're trying to invest in a different market and you don't have a team, you don't know anybody there, you don't have access to properties, you don't even know what to look for, you're in big trouble. And so with this, we've already purchased the properties. We've already fixed them. We have property management teams in place. And by the way, if you own like one property somewhere, imagine you bought a home in a market where I'm already investing and my property manager is managing 50 properties for me and one for you. Who's always going to get the best tenants? Me.
Oh, totally.
Right.
Totally.
And so when you're investing with my property management team, they look at me and all my buyers as basically one unit. And so they know that if one of my customers complains, they're not just going to lose that one property from their portfolio. They're going to lose everything that all my clients have purchased. And so it's almost like a union. So it's going to give it, that's really the key when you're investing far from home. If you don't have the right property management team, that's going to make or break your investing career. And so, yes, we do have great teams. We are doing things a little differently than in Atlanta. Back at the time, I thought and it did make a lot of sense to do. We were doing lease options, meaning that your tenants had an opportunity to purchase the property. But I have a sneaking suspicion based on what is going on right now in, I'm not going to get political, but in the world, we're seeing that there's going to be a lot of upward pressure. There's going to be a lot of inflation. So if we're looking at, some of these tariff things that are potentially happening or not happening, and once again, not political, but if all of a sudden a lot of these supplies that come from a different country are now no longer coming in, and now the cost of it is going up, well, that means that the price of homes are going to go up tremendously. And so I think right now, to give your tenant lease option means you might be selling yourself short. I think I would rather not have that. I'd rather just keep holding on to that property for the foreseeable future so that you have more control. Cool. And then if, as things change, and I mean, every day the news changes and things are heading a different direction. But I think at some point it might make sense to reinstate that, where your tenant will have an option to purchase it. But right now we're doing 1-year leases because I don't want to leave anything on the table for the buyers, my buyers, not for the tenants. And so I think that's the best strategy right now, is to see where the market goes. I believe we're going to see, the price of housing go up tremendously. The cost of labor is going up. Everything's going up. And so I would hate to sell one of my clients short. And so we're being very careful, but also watchful, because if something changes where I don't think that that's going to be the case anymore, then we'll change with it. We'll adapt with it. And so that's one of the, I think one of the main advantages to investing with somebody who's been doing this a long time is these are some of the things that I've been doing this. I've been through pandemics. I've been through booms. I've been through busts. You name it. I've seen it all.
Yeah.
And so after a while it becomes, I wouldn't say predictable. Nothing in life is predictable these days. But I think I have a pretty good handle on things, and I know how to course correct should something change in the economy or the market.
Totally. Well, and I think that's an important thing I want to really lean on into this, is I've been working with you for over a decade now, and we've done a lot of content. We've helped some people. Obviously, with the COVID thing that happened, inventory mayhem that happened, it is what it is. But anybody looking to get into this group, there's a lot of organizations out there that are doing different strategies and different ideas to get people into different kind of real estate investment opportunities. But I think the thing about you, and the reason that, I love partnering with you in this way and getting this opportunity out there to people, is because I trust you. And it's because you've been there and you've done that, and you've gone through all the pains, and you've made the mistakes, and you've gotten your face punched in a couple times, right? And you've had the big costly errors, and education isn't free. And when you invest in a property with you, my favorite part of it is not just the fact that you've vetted it and you've gotten it all set up and you've got the property management team and all this stuff, but it's the fact that we have access to you, right? And it's the fact that this is what you do for a living. So you're almost like a consultant for the people who buy properties from you at the same time. And you can't undervalue or overestimate what the value of that is, right? That is that is huge for anybody. So when you're getting into any market, figuring this out, I mean, there's no guarantees with anything in this world when you get into games like this, you know, when you get into investments like this, but um, you could go take hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours and try to research markets and do all this stuff. Well, what's your time worth? You could try to go out and do these properties and find your own property management team and do all that. You're probably going to screw up, make all the mistakes. Having somebody like Mike there that can just basically pay it forward with all the education that he's had, and you get to ride the coattails of, you know, the mistakes that he's made, and be able to have the implementations and the processes and the systems and the teams and the best practices all in place based on his 30 whatever plus years of experience. And that on its own is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for all that. And yeah, it's so important because in this industry, there's so many, what's the best way to put it? There's a lot of people out there that, if they know you're out of state, I'm not going to say that they're out there to get you, but you're a target. And it's very easy. Like I've seen, for example, people that were supposedly going to fix up a home that took pictures of a different home and ran off with the money. And they sent pictures. Hey, I have seen every trick in the book at some point in my career. And so, you know, one of the great things is, like I said, by the time you purchase a home, it's already been fixed. It's already got the tenant in place. Yeah. It's already generating revenue. And so, number one, even if you had the ability to duplicate what I do, well, okay, so you bought the home. Now it's going to take you how long to get it fixed? And even if you have somebody honest who's not going to run off with your money, let's say it takes 90 days. Well, that's 90 days where you didn't get any rent. And then after that, it's going to take you a couple months to find a tenant. And then there's just so many moving parts to it. And I'm not saying you can't do it yourself, but if you're trying to do it out of state, it's very, very risky. And even if you're lucky enough to find the right people, at the end of the day, it's not going to really save you. It's probably going to cost you more money.
No, totally, man. Well, I'm excited that we're back and doing this content together. I'm excited to be able to share this with more people. I'm excited that you have inventory again, that we can do this. I'm excited that we're going to be doing more content. And so everybody who's watching, you may not know this about Mike, but Mike also, and we only got a couple minutes left here, but Mike is, I'm going to just call him a digital nomad, like extraordinaire, because he's not just a digital nomad. This guy is like a digital nomad that stays at Four Seasons everywhere he goes, pretty much. And like, he's been wildly successful entrepreneur, real estate investor. He does a lot of coaching, financial coaching for people, teaching people how to leverage debt, teaching people how to manage debt. You've got a whole new credit card program, teaching people how to leverage credit cards and points and travel efficiency, because you're like a wizard when it comes to traveling and leveraging all the things, right? So when we talk about financial efficiency at Life 180, well, obviously getting the most bang for our buck. I mean, that's what financial efficiency is getting every dollar to get you more resources with the same dollar spent. And so that's what your travel hacking kind of program is all about. And so we're going to be covering all of that stuff. We're going to be doing content on all sorts of stuff together. And so if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe below, click the like button, you know, share this video out with people, get more people into the channel. Mike also has his own YouTube channel, and I will put the link for Mike's YouTube channel. I'll put the link for his Instagram channel, his TikTok, all the different things down below. So make sure you follow him personally as well. And you got anything else you wanna end with, or are we?
Yeah, I think just the big thing is, like, now's a great time. I mean, it's always a great time to get into real estate, but in all honesty, like right now, I do not see prices staying anywhere. Like nothing. The prices there's absolutely nothing where the prices are staying the same. And when you're talking about a high ticket item like real estate, it's going to get more and more unaffordable. If you think it's unaffordable now, just wait. So, I'd recommend now is like a great time to jump in. What we're going to find is, if I'm correct and real estate does go through the roof, we're going to find a lot of people are going to have to remain tenants. And if you own rental properties, that's a good position to be in. And if I'm totally wrong and everybody's buying real estate because they don't need to be a tenant, then you're going to
You
be in a
just sell.
position to sell. So either way you win.
Totally.
I think that's one of the things, these days with AI, like there's nothing that's like every occupation is, I don't know, has a potential to be replaced, it seems, and almost. But the one thing that's a constant is I don't think human beings are going to go back to living in caves. So either we're renting or
Nope.
we're buying. And if you own the real estate, you can
Totally.
either be the person selling to these people that are buying, or
Love
renting
it.
to the people that are renting, and that is the best position to be in. So,
Awesome.
and especially if, once again, as you mentioned earlier, I think one of the things you have to really keep your eye on is not being a landlord, not being the person who gets that call at 2 a.m. with the leaky toilet. The reason we
Yeah.
get into real estate is to create freedom and to be able to travel, to be able to do whatever it is that lights you up, and
Yep.
let real estate do that for you. Don't create a job for yourself. Let the real estate give you your freedom, and then use it
Man,
however you see fit.
I love it, man. Well, thanks so much for being here. I'm
Thanks,
excited to be
buddy.
doing this with you again. And guys, once again, subscribe, hit the bell. That way you're notified. And until next video, have a blessed and inspirational day. We'll talk soon.
See you
See ya.
later.